Imagine living your life dodging shadows, avoiding elevators, dogs, even flying, because fear has hijacked your brain. But what if your brain is lying to you, and that thing you fear isn't actually dangerous? I'm Dr. Kalinda Linder, clinical psychologist and CBT therapist, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be looking at something more common than most people realize: phobias. Maybe you've heard someone say, I have a spider phobia, or I'm terrified of public speaking. But when does fear cross the line into a phobia, and what can we do about it? If fear is limiting your life, interfering with your freedom, or making you avoid things that other people find harmless, CBT, that's cognitive behavior therapy, can help you. Today I'll be explaining what phobias are, how they form, and how CBT works. So what is a phobia really? A phobia is an intense, persistent fear of a specific object, animal, or situation, like dogs, spiders, heights, elevators, flying. We also call it simple phobia because it's one thing that you're phobic about. The key thing here is that the fear is out of proportion to the actual threat. And it's not just the fear itself, it's how much it interferes with your daily life. So think about when you've got to avoid an entire street just to make sure you don't go near a dog, or you refuse a job offer because you can't fly, or you skip medical care because of needle phobia. Now, phobias often develop in one of three ways. Number one, direct experience. So this is when something scary has happened to you. You were bitten by a dog, you had a negative traumatic experience, you got stuck in an elevator, so something specific happened. So that's number one, direct experience. Number two, observation. So this is when you saw somebody else panic, like say you've got a parent who's terrified of bugs, or a parent said, I just got stuck in the elevator, let's always take the stairs. And then the third one is what we call information transmission. And this is when you heard about something horrible and your brain said, I need to avoid that at all costs. And from there, avoidance becomes the coping strategy. You avoid the trigger and then you feel a temporary relief. And then your brain learns, oh good, I stayed safe because I avoided that. But then this creates a loop: fear, avoidance, relief, reinforced fear. I'd better stay away from that thing because it's really dangerous. And this is where CBT comes in. So CBT is a structured short-term therapy that helps you to understand and change the patterns of thinking and behavior that are maintaining your phobia. And there are two key components: cognitive restructuring and exposure therapy. Cognitive restructuring involves identifying and challenging the thoughts and the beliefs that make your fear worse. So let's say you're afraid of flying. You might think the plane is definitely going to crash. If I feel panic, I'm going to lose control completely. I can't escape. And with CBT, we wouldn't just say, oh, don't think that, it's rubbish. Instead, we would explore what's the evidence for or against that thought. What are the actual probabilities of this thing happening? And what is the real worst case scenario? And could you handle it? So when we test these beliefs, we start to create more balanced thinking. Now, the second part is exposure therapy, and that is the gold standard for treating phobias. It involves a gradual, controlled exposure to the object or the situation that you're fearful of. And each exposure helps your brain learn, okay, this isn't as dangerous as I thought. So it's very much experiential. And this is called habituation, where your nervous system starts to calm down and you build tolerance and confidence. And we always do this together, using an exposure hierarchy and at an agreed pace with lots of preparation and support. So flooding, which is an extreme exposure to what you've been avoiding, doesn't actually work on most people. So you're spider phobic and you have to handle a tarantula, or you're scared of flying and you've got to go in a two-seater in a storm. So we don't want to do that. In fact, a study that I heard at a congress about 10 years ago showed that when you do flooding, a third of people do spontaneously improve, yes. A third of people are not better or worse, and a third are actually significantly worse, perhaps more traumatized than before. And since we don't know who is in which third, we actually can't do flooding. So we work up a graded exposure hierarchy. So as you can hear, CBT is all about research and facts. And it's the most evidence-based treatment for phobias. There's so many studies showing that it's highly effective, often in just a few sessions, because it's not masking symptoms or helping you to avoid them. It's changing the underlying patterns in your brain, the underlying beliefs and the underlying behaviors. And then you walk away with tools that you can use for life. Now, phobias affect between 3 and 10% of people. And while that might not seem like a huge number, imagine if one of those was you and you had to rearrange your life around avoiding possible triggers. Nobody chooses to have a phobia. It's a learned fear, as we heard earlier. And we know that a fear generalizes, which is why the avoidance zone gets bigger and bigger. So whether it's a fear of dogs, elevators, moths, needles, CBT will give you the tools to face your fear safely and then shrink it down. And in the next 3 videos, I'm going to be taking you through real-life stories of clients overcoming specific phobias, starting with dog phobia, then moths, then rats. So if you or someone you know struggles with a fear that seems irrational or overwhelming, stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, share, and if there are any specific phobias you'd like me to cover, please note them in the comments.